Hello, golf fans. Chris here with Jaeger Bombs Fantasy Sports, bringing another DFS PGA preview. This week we got the Players, the unofficial fifth major. We have an absolutely loaded field here. We've got each of the top 10 and 48 of the top 50 in the official World Golf Rankings, teeing it up at TPC Sawgrass this week. We're going to go over some players. We're going to look at some key stats, and we're going to sort the sheet and look at some of the leaders in statistics of those key stats that we're looking for, come up with some core plays, build some lineups for DraftKings, FanDuel, look at some bets on DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to look at the weather and just discuss some overall strategy. If you're looking for more, you want to maybe grab a copy of our cheat sheet, which is going to have all of our rankings, our core plays. It's got our lineup builders on there, our ownership report, all that information. Head over to patreon.com/JagerBombs and grab a PGA package or an all sports package. We currently cover in 10 plus sports right now. We have multiple coaches in chat as well, and you can join that Discord chat along with any of those packages. You'll automatically connect and be able to chat with our team and interact with our winning team. With that, let's jump into, I'm going to share the sheet here, and we're going to start breaking things down a little bit. So in the field, like I said, we've got 48 of the top 50. We've got a nice collection of former winners. Scotty Scheffler's won it the last 2 years, as we can see. We've got Justin Thomas 2021, Rory McIlroy 2019, Siwoo Kim 2017, Jason Day 2016, Matt Kuchar back in 2012, and Adam Scott way back in 2004. So we've got a very tough course here with the Florida Swing continuing. This is the third event of the Florida Swing. Like we've seen, there is tons of water. The water comes into play on 17 of the 18 holes here at TPC Sawgrass. It's a very positional course. It's Pete Dye design, so that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of correlation in the Pete Dye courses on tour, and the three main ones that we're going to be kind of talking about in terms of our comp courses and our Pete Dye rankings are Harbortown for the RBC Heritage, the TPC Stadium course for the American Express, and TPC River Highlands for the Travelers Championship. They all kind of force accurate placement off the tee to avoid not only the rough, which is up another half inch this year. It's actually sitting at 4 inches according to the stats that they released on the PGA site. Like I said, water on 17 of 18 holes, and there's also going to be it's very tough around the greens, not just positionally off the tee. So hitting the green becomes very crucial here as well. But you're going to have a good around the green game, good scrambling game to be able to get up and down and save those pars because it can be very tricky. There's also some runoffs off the green. So we're going to see a lot of that scrambling come into play. And then, of course, putting at the end of that. So some of the key stats that I'm looking for this week: strokes gained off the tee with emphasis on accuracy, maybe looking a little bit into less than driver approach because hitting that fairway is going to be very crucial, especially with that rough. Again, not just because of the dangers that are looking around, but that rough being up to 4 inches, it's going to be tough to hack it out of there and hit greens in regulation. And then that takes us to strokes gained approach. It's a pretty balanced attack when we're looking at proximity ranges. Which Pete Dye does really good at with his setups is that it doesn't just concentrate on long irons, short irons, medium irons. It's kind of you're using every club in the bag when it comes to the approach shot. And then, like I said, strokes gained around the green, scrambling is going to be key. To be saving pars. I'm going to be looking at some course history in my model. Pete Dye performance, like we talked about, performance in strong fields, and some of these custom models I put together come from. I've been using Betspert's Golf, their Rabbit Hole, quite a bit. Very awesome product. I encourage anyone that is out there betting DFS, if you're looking for another site to dig in a little bit further and create some of those custom models, Betspert's Golf is a good one to go look at. So first of all, I've added a filter here so I can just easily sort through a little bit better, being able to give you some insight into the sheet and how to sort it. So look at the top 10 in the overall model. We got Scheffler, of course, he's won the last two. He's coming in some pretty good form. Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki Matsuyama to round out that top 5. But what I want to do here next in the video is just kind of go over some of those key stats and how they just kind of show you who ranks best in those key stats. So like I said, it's a positional course off the tee. So let's first of all look at strokes gained off the tee. along with driving accuracy as well. So we'll start with strokes gained off the tee. We'll look at the leaders. Obviously, we got Rory McIlroy. He's one of the best drivers, probably the best driver of the golf ball in the world. Taylor Pendrith is up there. Keith Mitchell. Now, keep in mind, strokes gained off the tee is a mix of your driving distance and your fairways gain, your driving accuracy. So it's maybe not necessarily going to be the highest weight for me in my model, but I just wanted to kind of go over some of those guys. So then let's look at driving accuracy, which I think is a little more important than just strokes gained off the tee. So we got Ben Coles, Bryce Garrett, Colin Morikawa stands out. He's got 72%, really good drive percentage, which is also looking at when they miss the fairway, how many greens in regulation. So that's added into the mix as well. And of course, we got our total driving number over here. But looking at this accuracy a little bit closer, we got Lucas Glover, Victor Perez, Aaron Rai, who also has a good course history here, so that makes sense. We got some correlation there a little bit. Kevin Roy, Sepp Straka, again, red hot. We'll talk about him in a bit. Max McGreevy, Russell Henley, Daniel Berger, kind of down the list. So then we're going to look at strokes gained approach. Becomes very important. There's currently 3 guys, and these numbers that you're seeing in the green sections here for the statistics are full season statistics for 2025 starting in January at the Century Tournament of Champions. So we got Jackson Subers at the top, Nikolai Højgaard, Nick Taylor, Tommy Fleetwood, Doug Kim, Colin Morikawa again. So he's showing up in 2 already out of the 3. He's right up there at the top of both in terms of strokes gained approach and driving accuracy. He's definitely up there as one of my favorites. It's a nice start to a lineup with him. Now, it's not. Let me preface by just sorting by DraftKings pricing here again, because while we have Scotty Scheffler way up at 12.8, it's not going to be too hard to fit him in, because at the bottom of the board, like DraftKings likes to do with these majors, is bring in the 5K range. So you go mix in a couple 5K guys, and we'll talk about that some lineup building here shortly after we go over a few more key stats. So strokes gained around the green was another one I said was very important for saving pars, especially. We got Malnati, Brian Campbell. Now, while those guys are good in and around the green, they're kind of struggling in other areas. Hideki Matsuyama, not the case. He's kind of solid across the board here. Maybe not so much off the tee, as his driving accuracy has been down a little bit this year, but very strong around the green. I would say he would be the leader just based on all around, kind of looking at an all around game, not just the around the green. Also up there in putting with plus 0.295 so far this season. So the putter's been good for him. Minwoo Lee is he's struggled. Now, where he's seen some success as well, he has struggled on the approach and ball striking in general. He's been very good around the green and putting. Alex Smalley, he's up there as well. Some other guys that stand out. Michael Kim has been on quite a roll here lately, and as you can see, he's been solid across the board, positive in off the tee approach, obviously ball striking, the combination of the two, around the green, and slightly above average in putting as well. Really good drive percentage there for him. Okay, so looking at some strong putters here to start the year. We've got Potgieter, Frankie Capan, probably saying that wrong, Lee Hodges, Bazudenhout, Chandler, Hall, Valimaki, Rose, Lauer. Henley's been up there in a lot of these key stats that we've been looking at, going down a little bit further. Sam Burns, Sung JM, Akshay Bhatia. So with that, I want to go and look at last 5 years course history. So course history, sorting this specifically by price to start. You can see there's a lot of variance. It's a high volatile type event where you can go something like Schauffele, where he missed 3 cuts in a row after a runner-up in 2019, missed 3 cuts in a row, then came back with a 19th and then a runner-up last year. You've also got Patrick Cantley. He's got 3 top 25s surrounded by 4 missed cuts. We've also got Wyndham Clark, went with a withdraw, 2 missed cuts, T27, and so he's really trending up in terms of his course history. But even guys like Rory McIlroy, who won it in 2020, then missed a cut, then 33rd, missed a cut, and then 19th last year. So it's a very volatile course. So in terms of betting, I like to get a few more than just my normal 2 to 3 guys on the bet card. I like to go usually 5. And with that, talking about betting before we move on and look at some more guys who are a little more consistent in terms of their course history. That's Scotty Scheffler at plus 400, McIlroy at plus 800. Those two guys' prices really help the guys below them. Like as you can see, there's a very small window into that next tier: Schauffele, Morikawa, Alberg, and Thomas. And then we're jumping into the 28 to 30, even into the 50 and 60 real quick at this event. So I don't mind grabbing 2 or 3 of those guys. I don't mind, betting up top. Probably going to go, I'm not personally betting Scotty or Rory in this event. I do like the value below these guys, and I'm probably, like I said, filling in with 3 to 4 of these guys in this range, and then maybe coming down and grabbing someone a little bit further in the field. We'll talk about some of those bets here shortly. Let's look at some consistent course history here. Bezuidenhout, 13th, made the cut in all 3 of his trips with T13s in each of his last 2 years, which is really good. Matsuyama was very up and down there for a few years, but he's got 5th and 6th in his last 2 years. Brian Harman's got 3 top 10s in his last 5, 2 of them being top 5s. Siwoo Kim is always a guy that that comes up when we talk about Pete Dye courses. So he's top 10s in 2 of his last 4. He's made a lot of cuts here, won it back in 2018 as well. So definitely like him. Aaron Ryan, his first 2 trips, 19th and 35th, which is very good when we're talking 7,100 on DraftKings, 8,800 on FanDuel. Makes a lot of sense there. He's coming in with some good form here too, as you can see. So he kind of correlates across the board. We also talked about him when we were looking at ball striking and stroke speed approach, specifically driving accuracy. So it makes a lot of sense. He really profiles out as someone really strong value play this week. Scheffler obviously won 2 in a row, but he missed a cut, T55, and then back-to-back wins, which is really good to see there as well. It just kind of goes again back to the high volatility of this course and this event. We can see a lot of wind. Just being that it's very coastal side of things in terms of the course location. So we're going to need to pay attention to that. And so before we go any further, let's go over and let's just take a peek at that weather. Thursday and Friday looks like we're going to be, and now this is early in the week, so we'll come back and we'll update this on Windfinder. I grabbed the closest weather station to TPC Sawgrass, and Thursday, Friday looks pretty close. There's some wind late in the late afternoon, it looks like. We got this. We're just going to sort this out here real quick, like the site. But sometimes it goes to knots rather than miles per hour. So we'll go and change that. Looks like we got a little bit of wind late in the afternoon on Thursday. It gets up to 13, 14, and 7. Well, that's getting into the night, but 13, 14 mile an hour gusts in the afternoon. So maybe the early wave has a little bit of an advantage on Thursday if you're playing Showdown. Makes a lot of sense to maybe grab some of those guys. And on the sheet specifically, coming up later today or early tomorrow morning, we will have tee times for each player and the wave that they are on in terms of, if you are looking at playing some Showdown and looking for that little bit of an advantage, like I just talked about with the earlies with the wind. Now, the early is also going to play late, which a little bit more wind again on Friday afternoon. So it's kind of one or the other. So I think both those days, if you're playing Showdown, as of right now, it might change going into Thursday morning. So again, pay attention to Discord. We'll be talking about it as well. We'll have some core plays up for the Showdowns in our chat. But right now, it looks like we were going to be early on Thursday and Friday for Showdown. No real wave advantage for me in terms of playing the full tournament. And Saturday, Sunday looks like it's going to be the same thing on Saturday. Now, the sustained winds are going to be lower in the morning, but the gusts are a little higher in the morning. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off there on Saturday and Sunday, but definitely got some winds. Going to be some tough scoring on Saturday and Sunday. So pay attention to that also if you're playing prize picks and you're I like to play the strokes, over under on the strokes. So maybe you're looking at some some unders for Thursday and Friday, some lower scoring and some higher scoring on Saturday and Sunday for prize picks. And again, we'll be talking about that in our Discord. All right, so I'm going to go back and sort by price. And specifically, talking about guys, we talked about Pete Dye. So in my custom model, I'm looking at some guys over the last 50 rounds, strokes gained total on Pete Dye courses, the 3 that we talked about. And I will just find that data here real quick. So guys that we're looking for right at the top, of course, wouldn't you know it, Scotty Scheffler. We've got Xander Schauffele, number 2. We got Justin Thomas, Sung J M, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantley, Christian Bezudenhout, JT Poston, Kevin Yu, and Carson Young kind of at the top, right fringing outside that top 10. Guys that stand out: Hideki Matsuyama, Minwoo Lee, Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood's right there, Rory McIlroy inside the top 20, Shane Lowry rounding out that top 20. So those are some guys that are strong in Pete Dye. I've got that in the model here this week. I took from my own course history in the past. I took just those 3 events. BetSperts, they're looking at all the Pete Dye courses. So in my Pete Dye rankings here, what I took was just my own course history from those 3 courses on the PGA Tour, those 3 regular courses that we talked about earlier, and put those in. So you can, if you're making your own model this week and creating your own copy of the sheet, you can kind of adjust that how you want. And then I got some strong fields too. So I put in like the majors, any of the signature events that we've seen over the last couple of years, and that's where that ranking comes from in the model. And then that's all weighted together into the overall ranking this week. So looking at some guys in terms of who does well in strong fields, maybe some guys. I mean, it's pretty standard that we're going to see Xander Schauffele, Scheffler, Morikawa, Matsuyama, even Ludwig Alberg sitting there in 6th. Sung J M, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantley, Corey Connors top 10 in strokes gained total in those strong events. Guys just outside the top 10, going to the top 20. We've got Shane Lowry, Robert McIntyre. He's been very up and down, but he's been awesome in these strong field events and majors. Tony Finau, Rory McIlroy's inside that top 20. Maverick McNeely, and Wyndham Clark in there as well. So we'll talk about, like I said, Scotty Scheffler going to have to be in there. He's won 2 straight. He's starting to trend back towards winning again. He's not quite where he was last year in terms of his win percentage and upside, but I feel it's coming along. And at 12.8 seems high, but again, we've got guys down in those 5K ranges, which is going to greatly help us load up in the top tier and play it like a major if you're playing DraftKings or FanDuel. So Scotty Scheffler makes a lot of sense for sure. But going below that, if you want to go a little bit more balanced of a lineup, Colin Morikawa is up there for me. While T13 in 2023 was his best finish here, like I said, he checks all the boxes for me this week. He's coming in with some strong form, a couple runner-up finishes, almost took it last week, had that lead going into the final round, but ended up shooting par in the final round and was overtaken by Russell Henley. So he finished with that runner-up. Some strong form coming in. While it's not standout course history, he's made the cut in 3 or 4, 13th in 2023. I think he can definitely get above that. He's someone I'm probably going to bet at 14-1. Can actually find that probably plus 16, maybe even plus 1700. So have a look at that as well. Strong form. He comes in, he really hits on all the stats that I'm looking for. Strong in strokes gained approach and driving accuracy, which I like. You hit those fairways, you hit those greens. If he gets a hot putter, he's going to be right up there. Very strong in proximity. The only place that he didn't really stand out for me was the Pete Dye. He's like average in his strokes gained total on Pete Dye courses, but very, very good. Like I talked about, he's 3rd in the strong field rankings. So he's someone that definitely at the top, probably in terms of points per dollar in that top tier. He's my favorite play. Right behind him, number 2 in my model, Justin Thomas. He won this back in 2021. He's been trending backwards since, but his game has gotten a lot stronger this season, specifically. Going to look at just some of his recent finishes here. He's got that 36 at the Arnold Palmer, which is quite disappointing. The putter was absolutely terrible. He lost, I think it was just over 5 strokes putting last week. Right after that, back-to-back top 10s at the Genesis and the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Gained 13 strokes combined in those 2 events on approach, which was very good to see. The putter was just kind of average, a little bit above average at the Waste Management, but I think he's kind of trending. Again, I think this trend is going to turn around since his win. And looking at the Pete Dye rankings, I talked about him. He's third in the Pete Dye rankings, 23rd in terms of the strong field rank. So he's someone I think we can build around. Pairing Morikawa and Thomas makes a lot of sense for me if you're looking to maybe not jump up to Scotty Scheffler, because going up to Scheffler either forces you to have multiple guys in that sub 6K or let's say sub 6,500 range, but it also takes you away from getting two or three of these guys in the, let's say, 9,500 and up, Russell Henley and up kind of thing, the top 12 or even the top 15 in pricing. Because then I like kind of jumping down. I do like Tommy Fleetwood. He's number 4 in my model. He's had some very consistent course history here. 2 top 10s were back in 2019 and 2020. He's making a lot of cuts. He hasn't really shown much upside here. So maybe more of a GPP play in terms of Tommy Fleetwood. Now, a value I really like at the bottom of the 9K range, Shane Lowry, 14th in my overall model. He's got some strong course history here, 3 top 20s in his last 4 events. He's got a top 10 in 2021. He comes in with some strong form as well. He's done very well so far in the Florida swing, the first 2 events with a 6th or 7th and an 11th at the Arnold Palmer and the Cognizant, gaining 8.8 strokes on approach. He gained 3.9 strokes putting, so a very good putter at the Arnold Palmer. He was the leader. I was very excited having an outright on him last week. He looked dominant in the first 2 rounds going into the weekend, but I think he was +4 on Saturday, so he kind of threw away that chance at win. He kind of got it back. I think he shot 2 under on Sunday, which was good to see there as well. But he couldn't close it out. So I'm going right back to Shane Lowry, especially from a DFS perspective at 9,100. He covers a lot of things that I like I said, course history, form, stats. He's right there in terms of his strokes gained approach. He's one of the leaders there. Driving accuracy is above average in this field. And then sliding over, he's 20th in the Pete Dye, 13th in the strong field rankings, 15th in the course history rankings. And while the stats may not completely be there, because he's a little bit more up and down in terms of his week to week, but he's been playing very well. So going to be on Shane Lowry at 9,100. And I think I just want to see here, building a lineup with Morikawa, Thomas, and then jumping down to Lowry leaves us 6,700. So that's definitely viable. So if you want to get away from Scotty Scheffler, you can jam 3 guys in the 9K plus range. I got 2 in the 10, 1 in the 9. And then what I want to do here is maybe just jump down into this lower, really low range, and 2 guys that kind of stand out to me. We got 5,900 and 5,700 down in that sub 6K range for me. Let's find them here. We got Michael Kim. He's been playing very well, and I'm just going to bring up some information on them. And then Kevin Roy is another one. Had an outright. I was sweating him last week at Puerto Rico, so he's been playing very well. So let's look at those 2 guys specifically here. They are ranked 47 and 53rd in my overall. Now, Michael Kim, first of all, has absolutely terrible course history here. He's missed the cut in 3 straight and pretty badly, I must say, but he's coming in easily with his best form, which is good to see. He's playing some excellent golf. He's actually gained strokes in every strokes gained category, tee to green, off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting in 5 straight events in every category. That doesn't happen very often, and that's why he's got 3 top 10s. And in that time, 3 top 10s, and then the other 2 finishes are 13th and 13th at Genesis in Mexico. So the 2 Florida swing, he's got 6th and 4th. Very strong with his irons lately. Over here, ball striking, he's right up there as well. The driving accuracy is down just a little bit, but still slightly above average into this field. And then obviously he's not going to stand out in the Pete Dye or the strong field rankings because he's fairly new into this, getting into these strong fields. So I'm kind of ignoring that, and I'm kind of ignoring the course history and going with the form. Very strong form and stats heavy is the reason why I like him. And I mean, he's 5,900. So I'm going to go and plug him in and see where we're at with this lineup. It brings us back to 7,200. So that opens up a lot. We can either go up. I mean, I'm maybe not specifically, unless I'm going superstars and scrubs, like in a 20 max where I want multiple guys in that sub 6K range. But Kevin Roy is going to be one that I'm looking at. I talked about him few seconds ago. I had him last week at the Puerto Rico. He ended up going T6, and he's made the cut in 5 of his last 6 events. Missed the cut at the Cognizant in there. Hasn't really stood out in any one specific area statistically. He just hasn't put it. He'd have some higher finishes if he put it all together. So it's kind of one week he's above average around the green but bad putting. The next week he's good putting and below average around the green, or really good off the tee and average with the approach, or really good with the approach and average off the tee. So when he starts to put it all together, I think he easily can crush that upside of 5,700 that he's got. This may be a tough course to do it with his first trip here. So I'm not going to have a whole bunch of exposure to him, probably in that 10 to 15% range, something like that, just being a first timer at a very, very tough and volatile course. But he's someone that I'm definitely going to fit in. And if you fit him in, obviously, you are going to be jumping back up, I believe, into that 8K range, 8,700. So this would be like a superstars and scrubs. We get 2 10s, 1 9, 2 guys in the sub 6K range. And then that kind of brings you into here. And the guy that I like the most, well, I'm probably not going to use this lineup combining 2 guys sub 6K. Sepp Straka stands out to me for a couple of reasons, and I will go over that here. Let's find Straka. 16th and 9th, 2 of his last 3 here. Made the cut in 2023 as well. Coming in with some strong form. He's already won this year. Really high in terms of his strokes gain approach and his ball striking. Driving accuracy is up there. His proximity, his long iron proximity doesn't give you the most distance maybe because he's going to be laying back at this positional course. So I know I said the balance between the proximity ranges, but generally for guys that are shorter off the tee, I'm going to be looking at that proximity 175 to 200 and 200 plus. He's first and 14th in those 2 ranges in this field. So I really, really like that. I think this is the place that he can thrive. Again, he's already shown it. I think he can maybe betting like a top 20, a ladder bet with Sepp Straka is something that I really like, betting the top 20, top 10, top 5, and then getting your outright in there as well at plus 5,000. I think there were spots you could even get him at plus 6,000 over on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. He is plus 5,000, plus 400 in terms of that top 10, and plus 850 for a top 5. So I kind of ladder bet it that way with him. So that's one way to build a lineup. Now, if you were to take, let's just say, Justin Thomas out and throw in Scheffler, this is where you could get 2 of those sub 6K guys in there. You almost need 3, but it's definitely doable getting Scheffler, Lowry, Morikawa. Some other value guys that I like, maybe a little bit higher. This one's a little bit more course history than it is in terms of current form, would be Tom Hoge. Really consistent here. I mean, for his price at 6,100, that T54 did not kill you last year if that was to happen again, but he's got a 3rd, 33rd, 22nd, and 30th. Those are all, obviously, he's crushing his value with the top 10, but top 25, top 30, I think is enough at 6,100. Get in some birdies there, some streaks possibly. The form just hasn't been good, but it has been starting to trend with the 40th last event. But he's someone I think is going to be probably 1-2% owned down here. I definitely like him. One guy I won't be chasing is Max Homa. It just seems like his game has fallen right off. Ben Griffin's got 2 top 5s in his last 3 events. He's got a 35th here in 2023. Again, at 6,700, we're probably looking at a top 25, top 20. I think that upside is there. I'm not going to have a ton of exposure to that, but it does make sense. Course history guys I talked about at 7,100, I like the price of both Bez and Aaron Rai here. Probably Aaron Rai a little more. He's coming in with some good form. 4th, 11th. He's up there in driving accuracy. He's got a 19th and 35th here. So he's someone that I'll be fitted into my lineups as well. So that would be another, even with a Rai and a Michael Kim. Oh, I have Scheffler in there. I wanted Thomas. That gives you 7,300 left over. So there's a lot of ways to build lineups this week, but that's definitely one that I like the most, is getting 3 guys in that plus 9K. Obviously, we've got an elite field. I want to get as many elite players in my lineup as possible. DraftKings makes that fairly easy this week with that sub 6K range, which I extremely like. So there's a few plays that I like on DraftKings. It's very similar, or on FanDuel, sorry. It's very similar. There's a few guys that Morikawa is definitely up there. His price is even a little bit cheaper. Um, Not cheaper overall, but compared to the other top tier guys, stands out. Other guys, you got Sungjae and Berger that are sub 10K within a mix of those guys. Lowry 10-2, so kind of about the same rating over on FanDuel. He's actually 14th in price, and he was 16th over on DraftKings. Morikawa was 4th on DraftKings, 6th on FanDuel. Other guys that maybe stand out on FanDuel that I want to build around, like Daniel Berger he's like 11th on DraftKings, 22nd on FanDuel. Tony Finau is 15th on DraftKings, 32nd on FanDuel. So I think there's a lot of value in Tony Finau here. I think he's going to be lower owned because he's surrounded by guys with pretty excellent course history, as well as they fit in the model quite well. Where Finau's been very, very up and down, but I think he's probably going to be around that 5% range, and he's only 9,200 on FanDuel, so I think that makes some sense in GPP. Not a high. Probably not going to have a super amount of him. Jordan Spieth's another guy that gives you that differential on FanDuel. Not going to have a lot of him either. A few other ones. Siwoo Kim. This is probably a spot where I want to use Siwoo Kim. He's got a plus now. If we go over and look at the full tourney salary to odds differential, he's a plus. It looks like a DFS value on all three sites, especially on Yahoo. Is going to be someone I'm going to be building around on Yahoo a little bit. 50 plus 51 there, but he's a plus 14 on FanDuel, plus 7 on DraftKings, which is excellent there. So I'll be looking towards that. Siwoo Kim. So let's plug him in. Another top tier guy. Scrolling down a little bit, some Matsuyama makes a lot of sense. I'm going to get Shane Lowry, and let's just say throw Matsuyama in there. We're left with 9,300. I mean, that gives us a really good average pricing left over that we can go and spread around. Now, Aaron Rai, he's another one that stands out on both sides, so I'm going to plug him in. Accuracy guy, and then that leaves us with 9,800 for our final golfer. So there's one that I like there as well. Now, if you've got any questions after the show here, looking for lineup building, whether you're playing DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, Prize Picks, looking for outright betting, just looking for stats information, you have questions about the sheet, the models, anything at all, make sure to hit us up on Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. You can comment on this video, or you can join us by going over to patreon.com/JaegerBombs and getting access to all of our coaches in our Discord chat. So that wraps up our preview for the Players Championship. Like I said, stay tuned. We will have a tee times loaded onto the sheet later today. And then our core plays will start going up, our rankings and our skeleton lineups either later today and tomorrow morning. We'll also look closer at the weather and be discussing that in chat and discussing Showdown. And then pay attention to the sheet as the tournament goes on. We've got updated live stats, Showdown information, all that stuff in our Discord. So join our winning team today. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck this week, everyone.